Welcome to Newsworthy Stories with Jacqueline Jimenez. A decorated Army veteran is revealing what he learned about his third grade principal. The story actually made history. We're going to talk to him in just a moment, but hear what he's saying right now.
My name is Dr. Terrence House. I'm a military veteran and I served in Iraq. But many years before I was a soldier, I was a third grade student at Medgar Evers Elementary School in Ford Heights, Illinois during the 1976-77 school year. My principal used to talk about being this big-time track star and made reference to the Olympic Games on many occasions, and I used to look at her and be like, pfft, and I didn't believe her. Pfft, and boy was I wrong. Turns out, this was Tidy A. Pickett, and she was the first black woman to represent the United States in the Olympic Games. Her life influenced me so much that I wrote a book about her, something that few people even know about. My principal used to line up all the little boys in a single file line and check under our arms with the sniff test to make sure we weren't musty. She also had in hand an afro comb to comb the nappy hair of those of us who hated combing our hair. This was my first encounter with self-improvement, paying attention to my appearance and my show up. And even today, I like to show up, and it's because of her.
So, joining me now to talk more about this compelling story of the Olympic omission is Dr. Terrence House himself. Dr. Terrence House, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, the thing about authors, I tell stories, when you're writing a book, you don't want to tell the whole book. So, most people, we want to know who is behind the book. Who are you? Can you tell us a little bit more about what you did in the military and then how um, this story impacted your life?
Well, in the military, I did anywhere from infantry to truck driving, heavy wheel vehicle driving, and things of that nature. When I was stationed over in Vicenza, Italy, I started thinking over my life and thinking about the places that I've been. And I started thinking about, my childhood years. And I was thinking about the stories that they used to tell me in elementary school that Mrs. Phillips at the time, she was a track star and all these things. And I was like, yeah, right. Because she was older than my grandma by like 5 years or whatever. And I was like, I never seen my grandmother run to anything except to go watch Bonanza or Gunsmoke or something like that. So, so I did the due diligence and did my research. And sure enough, she was an Olympic legend, so to speak. So, and that's where the book come from.
Well, I tell you, I think that when I first heard the story, the first thing I thought was, wow, this could be a Netflix movie. It has the making of a Netflix movie. The third grade, there's that bright young man in third grade. And tell us about what it was like at the elementary school where you first met her.
Well, it was very impoverished and stuff like that. And Miss Mrs. Pickett had the ability to work with what she had, and she was a disciplinarian, and she was very feisty, so to speak. And she was. I used to, to be honest, I used to hate to see her coming because she was. I thought she didn't like me at first, and that was just her nature to get things in order.
And how so? Now I know you mentioned, she made sure that, she checked under your arms and things like that. How did that impact you today?
Well, that was my first encounter with self improvement and checking your show up, so to speak. You don't come, in the world or show up in the world looking sloppy or smelling bad or things of that nature. And when I joined the military, it was almost like second nature because I've already been, shown how to do that, with her.
I see. And so tell me what you want people to understand most about the Olympic mission. I mean, what do you want them to understand about Mrs. Pickett and what this book is essentially about? What's the story behind the story?
The story behind the story is about resilience, and it doesn't matter if you come from, the topic of the societal scale or at the bottom. You know, the things that you go through, and you know, and it lets people know that you know nobody's coming to save you, and you have to save yourself, and you got to be strong no matter what situation or what circumstance that you find yourself in. So that's the story behind the story of the Olympic mission.
And when you were in that barracks in Italy, and what were some of the things that came to your mind that she taught you, and you're like, wait, you know what? I didn't realize how much she impacted my life. And what was that thought process like? Like when you realized who she was, that she really was who she said she was, and then like, wow, I was taught, I was, instructed, if you will, or influenced
Mhm.
by this Olympian and the first of its kind.
One of the main things is dealing with difficult people. After researching her story, and I was thinking about, what she went through in the Olympics, or being the first Black woman being on the Olympic team and stuff like that. People are, and people in life is not always going to be fair. And one of the things that even Benjamin Franklin said, you have to suffer fools gladly, and in order to get through certain things in certain situations in life. So those were two of the biggest things that I learned from her.
And talk a little bit about, give me a quote, if you will, from the book, or just a moment that you thought, people should really know uh, this particular thing about Miss Pickett.
One of the things in the book, when she was going through what she was going through, and she was saying that she was qualifying, and she was breaking all these records up in the state of Illinois during the track meets and stuff like that. And when she was not afforded her opportunity for Olympic gold, uh, she stuck with it, and she went back to another Olympics. She went in 32 and then in 36. And I was like, one of the main things she said, you never give up. You never give up on yourself. And those are one of the things that stuck with me throughout life. And so that propelled me even today to go, for advanced education, and to lift myself up, so to speak, when it comes to the hurdles of life.
Now, I know you said this is not like a biography of her.
Right.
So, how would you describe it, uh, in your words, what this book is about?
This book is about my experience with Mrs. Pickett. You know, it's not, like you said, it's not her biography. It's my experience, and for what I know and for what I was told, and from you know my interactions with her. And like I told you earlier, I thought she was mean, and I thought she didn't like me, and but that was not the case. And a lot of things that she did tell me or whatever, it didn't hit me till later on in life, and which I'm glad it did. Because like all of us, you find yourself in some real tough situations, and you're searching for answers and stuff like that. And some of her teachings, came through for me.
She is quite an inspiration, and she wasn't the only woman that ran in that Olympics. Can you talk a little bit about the person who ran with her?
Yes, that was Mrs. Louise Stokes, and she was a teammate of hers, and she was telling me about how close they were and stuff like that. And of course, as a little boy, I'm like, I didn't know no Louise Stokes, I didn't know no Tiny Pickett, I didn't know anybody. And I was like, here we go with another one of those old school stories that that most of us young kids we roll our eyes up in the back of our head every time they start with that. But come to find out, these two remarkable women went through some things that can teach a lot of us how to deal with even the problems of this very day.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
The unfairness in life, but it was like you had to set all those things aside and focus on self and focus on self improvement and developing the self.
So even today, her lessons are being taught, and you are remembering them, and you are moving forward uh,
every
in what she's taught you.
every day.
Have you reached out to the school since you've written this book? Have you told them you have this fabulous book that you have written?
Well, my sister, they have like a website of all of us who grew up. It was then called East Chicago Heights, but it's now called Ford Heights, and we did some type of lightweight PR type of stuff and told people about it. But I haven't really engaged in them like I should have. But the story, I think the story is more compelling than the book, and I was like, for for that time and that era to go through what she's went through and whatever. And I say it's almost identical to what we're going through this very day. And I was like, you know, and that's why it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers other people or whatever. I said we've been here before, so
This is true. This is true. And you know what I liked is that when she was in the second Olympics, she was there with Jesse Owens. And I
that's
remember when we were first talking about this story, you said something that I thought was very compelling. And you said that way before the civil rights movement, you know, there was Tiny Pickett. That these people were fighting for civil rights before the civil rights movement. And a lot of times when we talk about history, that's where we go. It's as if you know civil rights. The history of Black history started at civil rights, and it wasn't.
right.
There's so many people uh, beyond that point that really paved the way even for civil rights. And Tiny Pickett would be one of those. Um, on the world stage, not even just in our country, but on
Yes,
the world
yes,
stage,
yes.
um, as the one of the first Black women to represent the U.S. in the Olympics. And so I'm really glad that you took the time to share her story.
Hmm.
And I hope people will go and read it. If you go on Amazon.com, you will see some of the people who have already read it and what they're saying about it. It's very impressive. So I hope that we're, getting this message out. Go out and buy this book. Get to know Terrence House a little. Also, he has an upcoming. If you're in the Kentucky area, because that's where he resides now in Louisville. So connect with him in Louisville, for the upcoming book signings that he has in that area, um, or invite him to speak. See, I think he should, invite him to speak, talk about what he's doing, the impact that's been made. Invite him to where you are, virtually or in person. To me, I think that what you've done here is a great start, and I know we said that, hey, this could be a Netflix, made original movie, but you reached out to them and they reached back. So I don't know, could happen,
It may be. Hey, so
could
let's keep
happen.
our
That was
fingers crossed. Let's
very
keep our fingers
exciting.
crossed.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I want to be the first to say that that should be a Netflix movie. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time, Dr. House. And, continue to keep us posted on your progress, where the story ends up, museums, and wherever else you take it. I'd love to know and keep us posted so we can, let people know what's happening with this story. If you get the book, I want to see pictures of you holding that book up. I'll be happy to post it, and share that you're supporting Dr. Terrence House. Would love to see that. Any last thoughts?
Uh, well, like I said, I appreciate you having me on your show, and I appreciate the support from the small audience that I have right now. But like I said, I'm going to keep trudging ahead and keep her story alive as much as I can, so that they'll make some type of impact and contribution to our society at large.
Sounds good. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Newsworthy Stories is known for generating news coverage for television and social media, helping businesses, agencies, and nonprofits grow through story. Behind every story, there is a media strategy designed to keep your story and messaging in the news. Learn the easiest ways to get news coverage through my workshops and masterclasses that are based on my handbook, How to Get Television News Coverage. It's easier than you might think, because it is.